much of an impact this can make on people's lives is very like, I don't know how to phrase it, like it's just shocking that it could happen, like to the point where people are hated on based off their personal preferences.
Mhm.
Because this is their personal preferences. It shouldn't be. No one else should have any say on what they find attractive or what they consider appealing. Like that's their cup of tea. Like their personal preferences is their personal preferences. So I feel like no one else should have any say on what is okay and what is considered the norm.
Mhm.
And like if I could add, like I also find like in a lot of religions they say like you know what I mean you gotta be against gay like this and that like being a homosexual is not okay. You know you're gonna go to hell for that. You know what I mean? And like imagine somebody that grew up in a religious household and hearing that their whole life and then they have these feelings and they can't control them, like and they feel like a lot of people will kill themselves for like the reason like that. I'm sure there are people that kill themselves. So it's just kind of like it's kind of the same thing in hip hop because like you're hearing it, and like you're hearing how it's not okay. You know what I mean? It's so much that it's just like you're gonna have to mask those feelings, unless there's a community like cocktails, like that whole thing, like to be able to go there and share your stories and stuff like that, like that's important because like then someone would feel like that's a safe place to go and talk about, their true feelings and maybe that'll give them the courage enough to just come out. You know what I mean? So like I think like hip hop is kind of like it's like the new religion when it comes to like you know what I mean? It's like the new religion because like a lot of people you don't see people going to church and really reading the Bible or the Quran or none of that stuff. Nowadays it's like what's on my iPod, who am I listening to, what type of influence do they have on me? You know what I mean? So like that with that being said, it's just like oh if Future or Lil Wayne is saying, oh, it's not okay to be gay, and this is why you're not gonna even question it. Just kind of like religion, you're not gonna question it. But like that's why it's important to stay educated because a lot of people that are educated, I'm not gonna say they don't believe in religion, but they question it. So.
Definitely, that's a great way to say it. That's why I love Cypher, and that's why these kind of projects are super important, right? Because I agree with you. You're right. Like hip hop is the new religion. So if we listen to music all the time, even if we weren't trying to, we hear it on the streets or our friends play it. You're always gonna hear these messages. So it's important to be aware of the language being used within this music. And sure, like yeah, do I love songs that have misogyny and heterosexism? Yeah, I'm not even gonna lie. We're complex beings.
Yeah.
But I also have to be aware of the language being used and critically think, am I also believing in this? No, like yeah, not gonna lie. I love the beat. I love the melody. I love the feel of it. But do I agree with everything in this? No, not necessarily. And that's the importance I think. And that's where that whole question of like how can we as students start to become more aware of this. It's just even yourselves being aware of the language that's being said to you.
I agree.
Yeah.
Do you think we've made progress on heterosexualism?
I do. I don't know. I think we also, after the elections, it quickly reminded me, like I said, when we all talked about it and did the circle about how, like, I'm reminded how we live in a bubble here in the Bay Area.
100%.
So that's why my initial reaction was, yeah, I think we have made progress. But then I also now forget, I remind myself that we are also in a bubble when I say that. I do think we have. I think there's a lot more work to be done, especially still within hip hop mainstream music. I see a lot of new up and coming underground artists that are queer, that are coming out that are dope, or maybe have been, just haven't been out. So I would like to see it happening more in our hip hop culture. That's where I think we can use a lot of work.
Do you think I don't know how to word this question. It's kind of like how do you think heterosexism is took on a global spectrum, just not only in the United States?
I think it's a pretty big issue overall.
Yeah.
Except we're talking about like a lot of religious countries.
Yeah, like in the Middle East, for instance, or like in Africa. Like I know that like, in the Middle East, like in Iran, my country, like they'll hang you for being gay. You know what I mean? Like no questions asked, no trial. Like if somebody goes and reports that you're gay, and they can have any type of little evidence, like they'll hang you. You know, because like they'll just because it's an Islamic state. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah. So I just think like the whole religion and state, like religion and state should be separate. And I heard that Trump, the vice president, is super religious and like has talked about shocking the gay out of people.
Right, and that's a big thing.
Yeah,
That's especially within Christian communities
sure.
that they believe in conversion.
Mm-hmm.
That you can convert a gay person into being straight if they go to enough church and they're saved enough. There's like actual programs
Wow.
in the U.S. where
Like they think it's a
split
real problem.
Yes.
Like yeah, these are people that think that like you're really going to hell.
They call it pray the gay away. That's what
Wow.
they say.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So a lot of young LGBTQ youth also specifically will be sent in by their parents to these types of programs or camps.
Yeah.
And told to be converted.
Do you think artists like Young Thug are helping to break the barriers of what's considered masculine nowadays?
I do. I'm not very fully aware of like Young Thug. Can you?
Like I think because of like the skinny jeans. And,
Like
the
just
way
based
he
off his
dresses.
appearance, because they say that that's not masculine. That's not what men should be wearing.
Right.
Like, but he identifies himself as a straight male.
I would even say like similar would be like Kanye even.
Yeah.
Kanye's super fashionable. And actually, if you look at the origins of hip hop from the 70s to the 80s, fashion and like men being flashy was a big thing. So I'm very curious to see like how hip hop has evolved and masculinity has evolved, but also like the politics of our times. Like why is masculinity feeling so threatened? And I think it's tied back, and that ties back to like feminism, like with women becoming more equal in the careers. Like I think there's still a gap, but with more women becoming educated, independent, financially stable, and equity, masculinity is also threatened. And so with that comes like these new forms of how to show hypermasculinity. And with hypermasculinity comes, hypermasculinity is you are a straight male, alpha male, dominant, and that's it. So yeah, with like style, I think it's coming back in terms of redefining it. I think Frank Ocean also is a huge proponent for changing up the game. So much of the fact that I think he had to check out for a while.
Yeah, I think he did.
Who else? I think Chance even is a great example.
He's gay?
Not that he's gay, but that he can show
like
a different
super open,
side
like
of
pushing the boundaries, I
masculinity.
guess.
I'm trying to think of.
I think it's with like being super comfortable with your own sexuality, like that it won't bother you if there's somebody around talking about, you know, something that they're doing with their partner, you know, and then it's gonna like start you know what I mean? Like if you're comfortable with your own, you know, mind and your own like spirit, you know, like in your own like feelings and sexuality, then it shouldn't really bother you.
Yeah.
You know, like, and my uncle used to always be like, oh, okay, you're in touch with your feminine side. And I think it's because, like, I grew up with, like, 2 women. Like, so it was kind of like I had to see, you know, like, I don't know, like, they were strong and they played a man's role. But I can't really say that because it's like, for me, the 2 women in my life raised me and I'm a man. You know, so it's just like, I don't know how to explain it really, but, like, I'm super understanding, I guess, of a lot of situations.
Can you name any? Do you know of any like queer or gay